If you've ever listened to rock music, like any kind of rock music, you're hearing something that for a very long time was considered a huge engineering mistake.
Yeah, that's the wild part. That rough, fuzzy, aggressive sound we all know as distortion. It completely changed the course of music history, and it started, as an accident.
Engineers actually hated it. So today we're going to get into how that broken sound went from being this thing that studio techs would try to get rid of.
To becoming the single most recognizable part of rock and roll, and really a symbol of power and emotion in music.
Right. The whole idea here is that distortion let musicians break away from those clean, polite, kind of quiet styles that you heard in a lot of early pop music. It gave the guitar a brand new voice.
A voice so powerful it could finally compete with a loud drum kit. The cleaner sounds just couldn't cut through.
So let's trace this back, because the way it was discovered is almost like a legend. In the 40s and 50s, what was the goal in a recording studio?
Clarity, that was it. 100%. The goal was a perfect, clean, transparent signal.
So any buzzing or crunchy sound was, what, a problem?
Oh, a huge problem. It meant something was broken. A bad tube, a loose wire, something you had to fix immediately or you might, lose your job.
But musicians started hearing something different in that mistake.
Exactly. They heard this energy, this aggression that they just couldn't get from a clean sound. The flaw was suddenly interesting.
Which brings us to the most famous origin story. It's pure rock and roll. We're in the mid-1950s.
Right. And there are a few different versions of this, but the one you hear the most involves a guitarist on tour.
Yeah.
And his amplifier, well, wasn't tied down too well in the back of the car.
It fell out.
It took a tumble, a bad one. And the fall physically damaged the speaker cone. The paper part that actually moves the air to create sound, it got ripped.
And when he plugged his guitar in later, that torn speaker, it didn't sound right.
It didn't sound right, but it sounded incredible. It made this totally unique, aggressive buzz new sound that nobody on the radio had ever heard before.
And this is the key moment. Instead of throwing it out or fixing it,
they recorded with it. They kept the broken sound on the record.
And people heard it and were just shocked. They weren't hearing a mistake. They were hearing an attitude.
And that's when it all changed. Because other musicians started trying to copy it. They were intentionally poking holes in their own speakers with pencils or razor blades just to get that fuzzy noise.
A technical failure became a creative tool.
The ultimate creative tool. But, you can't rely on your amp falling off a truck every week.
Right. Not very sustainable business model. So they needed a way to control it. And to get there, we kind of have to look at the science behind it.
That's right. An electric guitar on its own it's really quiet. It needs the whole chain of electronics.
It all starts with the pickups, right? Those little magnets under the strings?
Yep, you pluck a metal string, it vibrates over the magnet, and that creates a tiny little electrical signal.
And that signal goes through the cable to the amplifier. If the signal is small, the sound is clean. But rock and roll, it needs to be loud.
And for that, early amps used vacuum tubes. You can think of them like little glass light bulbs that glow. Their job is to take that tiny signal and boost it, make it way bigger.
Those tubes are the absolute heart of that classic vintage rock sound. But they have a limit.
They do. There's only so much electricity you can push through them before they get overwhelmed.
So when you crank the volume knob all the way up to 10 or 11,
the amplifier just can't handle a signal that big. It can't reproduce it perfectly. So it starts to change the shape of the sound wave itself. That's distortion.
And what happens to that wave shape is so interesting. A clean sound has this nice, smooth, round wave. But when you push the tubes too hard,
it's a process called clipping. Because the signal is too large, the amp literally chops off the tops and bottoms of that rounded wave. It flattens them out.
So that flat top is the sound. That's what we're hearing.
That flattening is what our ears hear as that warm, fuzzy, growling texture. And with tubes, it's called soft clipping because it's a gradual process. The more you turn it up, the more it flattens.
Which adds all these extra complex sounds, these harmonics.
Exactly. And that's why even today, with all our digital tech, a lot of pro guitarists still want those big, heavy, old tube amps. They're chasing that specific natural warmth you get from real tubes.
Okay, so the sound is discovered, but you can't just crank a 100-watt amp to maximum volume in a small club, especially if you need a clean sound for the verse and a distorted one for the chorus.
Right. That problem led directly to one of the most important inventions in rock, the effects pedal, specifically the fuzz pedal.
Those little metal boxes on the floor at the guitarist's feet.
Yep. A simple foot switch turns the effect on or off instantly.
Hmm.
But they use a different technology inside, not vacuum tubes.
They use transistors.
Right, transistors. They're tiny electronic components. And when you use them for distortion, they don't do that gentle, soft clipping like a tube.
It's more extreme.
Much more extreme. A transistor circuit basically crushes the guitar signal into a very sharp, jagged shape. We call it a square wave. It's what creates that super thick buzzing sound, almost like a wall of noise.
And that invention in the 60s made distortion portable and reliable for the first time.
That's a total game changer.
This also brings up something people get confused about, the difference between overdrive and distortion. They're not quite the same thing, are they?
They're not. They're related, but different flavors. Overdrive is meant to sound like one of those tube amps just starting to break up. It's crunchy, but you can still hear the individual notes in a chord pretty clearly.
It's more dynamic. It responds to how hard you play.
Exactly. Distortion, on the other hand, is much more intense. It's that hard clipping we talked about. It completely changes the sound, makes it really compressed and thick. That's the sound of hard rock and heavy metal.
With distortion, a chord sounds less like a bunch of separate notes and more like one solid texture.
A solid wall of sound. And beyond just the texture, distortion gives guitarists a superpower.
Sustain.
Sustain. This is huge. If you play a note on an acoustic guitar, it fades out pretty fast, right? Right, the string just stops vibrating.
Yeah.
But distortion keeps the signal going. The compression and clipping force the electrical signal to stay at a high level, even when the string itself is barely moving.
So the note just hangs in the air for a long, long time.
Which allows a guitarist to play these long singing melodies in a solo. It lets the guitar act like a human voice.
Yeah.
That's what turned it from a rhythm instrument into a true lead instrument.
And you can't talk about the impact of distortion without talking about heavy metal.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
For heavy metal, distortion isn't just an ingredient, it's the entire foundation of the genre.
Bands use insane amounts of distortion to get that aggressive, dark atmosphere. They're not going for a little crunch.
No, they want sonic weight. And to make it even heavier, they often tune their guitars way down, lower than standard.
Why do they do that?
Dropping the pitch makes those distorted low-frequency notes feel physical. You feel it in your chest.
Right. Fans talk about that a lot. It's not just something you hear, it's a feeling. That vibration gives you a sense of power.
It's a full-body experience, which is very different from listening to, say, clean pop music.
So now we're in the digital age. Do you still need a giant 100-pound amplifier to get these sounds?
Not necessarily. A lot of musicians now use powerful computer software. These programs use really complex math to simulate everything, the vacuum tubes, the speaker cabinets, the whole signal chain.
Which has made things way more accessible, right? For students or anyone recording at home.
Oh, it's been a total revolution. You can get professional quality sounds with just a laptop. It's democratized music production in a huge way.
When you do look at the real physical gear, though, there are a few key measurements you always see, like amplifier power as measured in watts.
Right. A small practice amp might be 10 watts, but a big stage amp, the kind you need to get that really powerful distortion, is usually 50 or 100 watts.
And that power goes to the speaker, which is measured in inches. The 12-inch speaker is pretty much the rock standard.
It is. It gives you the perfect balance of low-end punch and high-end clarity for distorted sounds.
Then you have cable length in feet and power in volts, like 120 volts in the US. All these little details add up to create a specific sound.
They absolutely do.
Okay, but all this talk about 100-watt amps and low-frequency rumble, we have to bring up a really critical point. Safety.
Yes, we have to. Distortion almost always means high volume, and high volume causes permanent hearing damage. There's no way around that.
That high-frequency fuzz that sounds so good is actually really harsh on the tiny hair cells inside your ear.
It is.
Yeah.
And if your ears are ringing after you play or go to a show that's called tinnitus, that is a definite warning sign. It means the volume was too loud and you've done some damage.
And it's not just live shows. Listening to super loud, distorted guitar on headphones is just as dangerous.
Maybe even more so because it's right against your eardrum. You need to be careful. Use special earplugs that lower the volume without muffling the sound. You can't enjoy the music if you can't hear it properly anymore.
So really, the story of distortion is about how a technical mistake, a failure, became this global art form. It's a symbol of creativity and rebellion.
It's all about serendipity, really. Finding something amazing where you least expect it.
So thinking about that, if so many big musical innovations came from accidents or misusing equipment, where do you think the next great musical failure is hiding, and what kind of new sounds will it unlock for us?
Good luck with your studies.